else. You know, there is nothing else.
Welcome, as I caught myself and flubbed my own opening. Welcome, everyone, to Universal Citizen Media Live webcast. And I am joined by the intrepid intergalactic traveler, David Ellis, in his command center in Barbados. Welcome back, David.
I'm glad to be back, Andrew. I'm very happy to be back. How are you doing today?
I am doing good today. We are going to train the audience today. So everyone, pull out a piece of notebook paper. Yes, you're going to take notes. And I want you to pay very close attention to these first couple minutes. There are a lot of things that are going on in many different aspects of world politics, international politics, global politics, local politics. Recently, we've had the largest strike on oil production in history that should have caused a war that has vanished and evaporated. We've had an Israeli election where Benjamin Netanyahu is no longer going to be the president. They have to form a new government. The British government is complete disarray as Boris Johnson is now getting a second vote of no confidence. Then there's a Canadian election with Justin Trudeau, who's now going through two blackface and a brown face outrage thing, which is stuff from 1991 when he was a teenager. And then we have our Trumpian era garbage going on in the United States with impeachment. And today we are going to teach you about conversational terrorism. And in conversational terrorism is when people make ad hominem attacks. And we see this on our news all the time. We are going to be taking calls from the audience. Today is a Universal Citizens Media Call. This is not about getting yourself a reading. It's about the subject matter that we're talking about. So everyone, if you do want to be a caller, you got to go to the participants button. Hit the button there, and it'll tell you how to raise your hand, lower your hand, raise your hand, lower your hand, raise your hand, lower your hand. And from there is where we're going to select callers. If you are listening on YouTube, listening on Facebook, listening on Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, or the game consoles, you have to be in the Zoom room to be selected as callers. We've been getting a lot of people that have been emailing going, why aren't you can't to get in here? You have to be in the Zoom room. To get you sign up at andrewbartzis.com so that you can get to the email list that tells you how to get in. You do not need just a computer to call in. There are phone numbers built into Zoom for people to call in also. So wherever you are worldwide, more than half of our callers every show are from out of the country, out of the United States. So everyone, let's talk about conversational terrorism. David, let's delve in deep so people can understand conversational terrorism, ad hominem attacks, and how to reverse it out of your reality.
Okay, so when I was in school, in law school, we learned how to spot something called a fallacy. So now, a fallacy is basically an error in thinking, an error that is usually perpetuated in conversation. So if you're in a conversation with someone, it could be your spouse, it could be watching the television and watching the news media, and Andrew just gave a little bit of a heads up, because after this podcast, we are going to be asking you guys to do a little bit of homework for us using the media that you watch. So fallacy is an error in thinking, and there are many different kinds of fallacy. I'm going to go through a few of them, and then you can spot it the next time somebody uses it against you in a conversation to terrorize you into their point of view. Okay? The first fallacy is ad hominem, and there are variants to it, but I will give you an example of what an ad hominem attack is. I like peanut butter. You like peanut butter because you're an asshole.
I knew it, David. I knew it. You like peanut butter. You're an asshole.
Where does that come in? So an ad hominem attack deals with the message that the person is trying to set. It doesn't deal with the message. It deals with the person. Ad hominem literally means to the man. So if I say something to you and you attack me because I said something to you and you're not dealing with what I said to you, you're just dealing with me, then that is called ad hominem. Okay? So the most common ones are non sequitur. Non sequitur is it does not follow. Let's go once again. I like peanut butter. It's because you're gay, aren't you? Okay? Like, okay, first of all, I'm not gay, but you made an assumption based on the fact that I like peanut butter. So we want to bring these things in, and there's the bombast, what we call a bombast. Let's try it again. I like peanut butter. I hate your fucking guts. I hate everything about you. I hate you so much because of peanut butter. Think about the peanuts that are suffering because of you. That's creeping into our conversation every day, whether it be in the media or whatever else. When you see these things and someone is talking to you in this manner or talking at you in this manner, then you know you are being the victim of conversational terrorism. Okay? So we want to deconstruct a few things here, right, Andrew?
Those poor peanuts, David. I'm so insulted that you are a peanut eater.
Yeah. I think I might have murdered a few peanuts earlier today. So, right, inadvertently murdered these poor peanuts. That is bombast arguments. And when people get over emotional to try to drive home a point, it's because they want to bend your will. Most of the people who call into this show are, to some extent or another, esoterically aware. They're aware of themselves as sovereign beings, meaning that you're aware of yourself as an individual with choice, a conscious being with choice. But there are going to be individuals that you meet that will not necessarily respect that you're a conscious being with choice, and they will try to bend your will to what they want. So you need to be very careful, and you need to be able to spot these fallacies. I want you to think about the last stressful conversation that you had. See if you could spot the fallacies that either you used or someone used against you to get you to bend to their will. Okay? So when you do that, you will realize that this kind of discourse is always happening. It is always happening. And what we want to do on this show is, if you guys are listening out there and y'all are indeed conscious beings of choice, then you need to be conscious beings with choice with a lot of mind to realize when people are trying to negate that sovereignty inside of you. Okay? So you want to run a few examples, like in the media, in news right now?
So some of those examples that are in the media right now, we can just use example Boris Johnson going through a second vote, no confidence vote. Parliament was illegally recessed, so on and so forth. And he went to Parliament and started talking about robots and food and made a conversational piece that was actually quite funny. I don't know if you heard about that one.
No, I haven't heard about it. Please enlighten me.
We literally started talking about how robots could take over the world in food and a variety of other non sequitur topics. And the world went crazy and called him crazy and started direct ad hominem attacks on him, no matter what. Okay.
Yeah.
Another example, you have the protests going on in China, and you don't hear a word about it on any other news other than what the Chinese want you to hear. Okay.
Yes.
And then we have our classic United States garbage that's going on, where you have Fox News that is going to present the exact same paragraph one way and the other news, the exact same paragraph of the whistleblower is another way. We all know how to read and we all know how to interpret, but it is dogma and ad hominem attacks that drive forward the narrative they create.
You know, here's the thing, right? Whether it be Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, or whatever else, from the time someone in media comes to you with an agenda, you need to be analytical and listen to what they're saying. I don't care about left and right. They both have a particular agenda, okay? And people just choose the best, worst out of the lot, okay? It's like when a politician comes to you and says, well, I'm on the right, and a politician comes to you and says, I'm on the left. 9 times out of 10, each one of these politicians want one thing, and that's power. That's why people go into politics, to have the power to change things. Okay? And that's fine. You want the power to change things. When you want the power to change things in order to restrict people or enable certain people, then you may have a problem. But we're not even talking at that level, because it seeps down into the individual one-on-one level. So a husband wants sex from his wife. Wife says, no, I don't want sex with you tonight.
Husband and why is it never the other way around? Why isn't the wife asking for sex and the husband saying no?
Well, here's the thing. We won't hear about it the other way around. It's been my experience in my office, not 90% of the time, it's the other way around. I usually have this kind of conversation, 6-7 times a week, right? So it's usually, if the wife wants sex and she's not getting it, 9 times out of 10, she doesn't necessarily complain. But the husband does. So here's a few attacks that I've seen in actual therapy. So husband wants sex, wife is not giving him enough sex. What does husband say? It's because she doesn't love me. How does one follow the other?
Direct attack. Yeah.
Yeah. Non sequitur. Our relationship is dying because she's not giving me sex. It does not follow, non sequitur. That's what it means. That because she is not sleeping with you, your relationship is dying. Okay, there may be any number of things that go into that, and there's complexities with regard to people and sex, okay, and sexual intercourse that both sexes tend not to understand. But using conversational terrorism and trying to bend the will of somebody to sleep with you is kind of like psychological rape, isn't it? Do this because you love me. It's not like the most old-fashioned thing you've ever heard. Like, you will do this because you love me. It is your duty. Okay, that sounds kind of like
manipulative.
It's not only manipulative, it's actually quite disgusting, and it is used every day in our discourse. And what we want to do is get everybody to understand how these things work. Okay, so here's another thing in your normal discourse. Husband does not make enough money. Wife wants to push him to make more money. Don't you care about your family? That would be manipulative. That would be a non sequitur, and that would be a direct ad hominem attack combined. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because it means that you don't care. These things happen on a daily basis. And if you're in the audience and you're actually listening to this podcast and it has happened to you, then you can actually spot it. Tell the person who is bringing that to you, whether it be a spouse or whatever else, David said, don't fall for that. Okay? Or just tell them, no, I don't fall for that sort of stuff. But as Andrew has mentioned, we're in election year. And what I've been seeing on the media, I don't usually watch news all that often due to the fact that there's so many fallacies coming at me at any one point in time, including the bombast. The bombast is when I shout so loudly and I'm so emotional that anything you have to say, whether it makes sense or not, is of no consequence. A lot of you out there know someone like this.
We all got a grandfather or a cousin or an uncle that is that. And unfortunately, politics and news has devolved into this iteration of what we have here, which bleeds over to the dinner table, which then bleeds over into normal conversational terrorism on steroids now.
Yeah, at the dinner table, you have a lot of ad hominem attacks. People, grown adults, are acting like children. They literally go on media reports where there's a media guest. They literally go, nya, 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 nya. It's because it's kind of like, I don't want to hear what you're saying.
Right.
What you're saying doesn't make sense. And because it doesn't make sense to me, I'm just going to shut down and shout as loud as I can until you stop talking. This is not only fairly a disgusting practice, but it says a lot about the person who's doing it. If you are somebody who uses this kind of tactic to get people to listen to you or bend your will or evade, you need to stop that stuff because it doesn't make you grow as an individual. And I don't care whether you're esoterically inclined, because what we have seen is that these kinds of people have hijacked all the good movements in the world. They've hijacked these movements. Okay? I seem to remember when gay rights was about logically trying to tell someone, okay, that I am a human being as well, and as a result of that, I should be treated equally. I seem to remember when women's rights was about that as well. They are human beings, treat them equally, not subservient. Now we've devolved into this culture of spite and shouting, and that needs to stop. Okay, there's no parlay anymore. There's no I say something and this is my opinion, you say something and this is your opinion. How can we meet in the middle and find what a good balance is? There's none of that. It's like I'm going to shout until I lose my voice. And hopefully I don't hear what you're saying. And this is not going to end well for humanity. I don't think so. So I don't know what your idea is on this, Andrew.
Well, I have a lot of firsthand experience with bombastic, interruptive arguments because of the nature of my job.
Yes.
You get that part. So once we fall victim to a stupid person's frequency and start answering on that level, the stupid person has already won. And the stupid people will continue to win when we fall victim to these techniques. Now, there's a lot of people who like to come up with these sticky gotcha lines. As long as you're still using a gotcha line, you're still lowering yourself to those levels. And we are in a very unique point in human social evolution of how do we separate bombastic bullshit artists from true, some form of feasible truth, and not allow fallacies and feces to be flung at us.
You know, Andrew, here is the thing. People who are bombastic, because they shout the loudest, they're usually the most seen. And so what happens? 9 times out of 10, when there's a movement, because they want to be seen, the attention getters as well. Whenever there's a movement, whether it be Save the Whales, it could be Save the Whales, it could be something as important as race politics. They want to be seen. They want to be seen, they want to shout. And so that the people who are actually logical in the movement, okay, who actually can bring forward an argument, get drowned out as well. Right. And this is what is happening. Like, take for example, I mean, like, Andrew, we've had our share of emotional crazy people in the last few months. Okay, we've had our share of emotional crazy people, and I can tell you, when you meet someone like that, the best advice I could give you is do not shout back. Okay, these people have practiced their craft. They're emotional. They come out at you. And it's really quite an attack by itself. Do not shout back. Just stay silent and wait for all of that to finish. And then say no.
I think you said something very important that the rest of the audience has to do. Emotional people, like you just talked about, we all have them in our life. In our particular narrowband scenario, this is a very practiced craft. And I think everyone in the family has one. I think somebody in the chat room was just talking about every time somebody brings up a good normal subject matter, they go right into the ad hominem attacks. Those are people who are prepared. And when people have prepared an attack for any person or have been preparing for it, whatever, writing their lines down, whatever, you're going up against a conscious being of choice who's now using aggressive strategy to diminish you.
That is correct.
That is still energy harvesting. That's vampirism. And if you let it in, does it go past your energy aura? Most people it does. That's why they immediately verbally vomit back.
I have actually a real life scenario of a man who wanted to divorce his wife. Would you like to know why?
Why?
He was very, very emotional. He would use bombast and all sorts of manipulative techniques. And his wife was part of my yoga class, actually, right? So I made a joke in yoga class one day that the tree is about serenity. The tree pose in yoga. Does everybody know what the tree pose looks like?
Yep.
You stand on one leg, right? It's about serenity. So whenever he would get into his emotional fit, she would assume the tree pose and shut down, right? So what happens to his energy when that happens? He's trying to put it out, but then there's someone standing in the wind, like the oak tree. And so it came back in his direction, right? Because he's like literally eating himself alive. And it was a source of great annoyance to him. So much so that by the time he entered my office, he was like he looked really he looked really messed up, right? He was really beside himself. So the next time you meet a bombastic person, assume the tree pose. You know, the Buddhist monks in Vietnam used to do that, right?
No, I didn't know that.
They were asked to choose a side. Of course, they took it to the extreme level, right? You must have heard of people setting themselves on fire.
Yep, immolation. Yep.
Immolation, self-immolation, right? So it's like, choose a side. Okay.
Poof.
And I'll just right. No, but you don't have to walk around with a can of gasoline. But what you should do is just assume the tree pose. Just assume the tree pose. Zone them out. Let them consume themselves. Okay? And especially when there's a political agenda as well. Like, I don't know, and this is something that I really have to say. You have people on both sides, whether it be left or right. You have the people on the left saying, oh, we're social justice warriors. I didn't understand. And if I stand to be corrected. I stand to be corrected. Social justice warrior. You mean justice warrior? Because there's either justice or not warrior, justice or not justice. I'm not quite sure why there's a particular brand of justice which is different from another brand, right? So there's either justice or not justice, and the justice is at the individual level. That's what Hammurabi said. And he was the father of what we call law now, okay? There is either justice or there is no justice, okay? There's no particular brand of justice. We're not selling shoes here. This is not Nike, right? So there is that part. They have seemed to have really adopted a culture which it's effective in that it gets stuff done. But if your only intent is to get stuff done as opposed to educate and assist people, then you might have a problem there. All right? Because if you go about hurting people, shouting, burning buildings, doing stuff like that, defacing property as a means of getting your point across, how are you different from a beast? You are a human being and you're a conscious being of choice, a sovereign being. Okay? You're hurting other people to get your point across, and that is not right. And sometimes the people who are hurt in all of this stuff are people that have nothing to do with it. I seem to remember I believe it was Los Angeles some time ago, there was a riot, and the people who rioted hurt people who lived in the community who were actually on their side.
Mm-hmm.
In Pakistan, when the Danish cartoons came out, they rioted, people got killed, Muslims got killed. Okay? Muslims got killed. Why would you kill Muslims to protest the fact that people are drawing cartoons and disrespecting Muslims? You have to think about these things. You have to think first. And it's critical thinking that is very necessary. Okay, I know people in the Muslim community and they're like, no, that's not us. That's a bunch of crazy people. Okay? And to a certain extent, they're very, very much right. Okay, so if you are that kind of person who uses bombast, emotional argumentation, and taking things to another level, it's my way or the highway, it's my way or there'll be blood, then you are not different from the same people that you try to fight against. Mm-hmm. You are not different. Okay? There are other aspects of it, but at a relationship level, we've seen this a lot in my office. We have.
Because ad hominem attacks at the relationship level, conversational terrorism, it began millennia ago when they had the first marriage. Okay? It's fair to say the first marriage is when these first sets of conversational issues came up. So let's touch on the topic of relationships and why people have trouble opening up to the other person because of the nature of the attack. There are a lot of people who don't even realize they resort to ad hominem attacks. It's just part of the nature of who they are. And then there are narcissists who know nothing else other than to diminish and demean others.
Mm-hmm. The narcissist is an interesting creature. The narcissist will not let anybody in, but he demands or she demands to be let in. Mm-hmm. Okay? They will not let anybody into the inner realm, but they want to be inside of your realm. They want to be inside of your realm because they want to control you. Okay? So how do you spot a narcissist? Let's do the narcissist class 101.
Yes.
Okay. I think we've done something like this before. So, how to spot a narcissist? Let's the narcissist talk for 5 minutes. Count the number of I, my pronouns in the 5 minutes. If the I, my pronouns crosses over 20, then you're probably talking to a narcissist. Okay? I believe this. This is my car. My ex-girlfriend. And this is what I think. And I this. That's probably a narcissist that you're talking to. But wait, there's more. Right? Ask the narcissist, would you like me to do something for you? Ask the narcissist, would you like me to do something for you? Okay? Observe the narcissist's reaction. Would you like me to get you a glass of water? Is the narcissist saying to you, yes, go get me a glass of water? It should be obvious that you should get me a glass of water. These are the little tests that you run to see whether you're dealing with a narcissist. It's not a game, but if you believe that you are dealing with a narcissist, you need to pay attention to these little things. And narcissists will tell you who they are long before you get close to them. Okay? They will tell you who they are long. It's whether or not you choose to listen or not. Choose to observe. Okay? So I could pretty much tell you, if you're involved with a narcissist, your life is going to be squeezed down quite a bit. It doesn't matter how cool and great a person you are, that narcissist will box you into a little box. Your existence is there for my pleasure. Okay? And whatever that pleasure means. Okay? And if you are not within that realm, and if you're not pleasing me, then you are a bad person. You are a negative person You ought to have, oh, by the way, I need to say this actually. There are a lot of people who are spiritually inclined and esoterically inclined who are complete narcissists, Andrew. And we know that very well,
Oh,
don't we?
yeah. I've met many of them, and most of them are completely clueless. They're a narcissist and accuse everyone else of being a narcissist but them.
Tell me if you've ever had this kind of conversation with an esoteric person, an esoteric meditator, someone who goes to yoga, a Reiki person, it doesn't really matter. I think that your energy is so dark and negative right now. And you're like, no, I'm just actually correcting you on something.
There you go. Got
Right.
many times.
You're bringing negativity into my space. No, just deal with what I'm saying. Okay. Let's try a running example. Esoteric person pees on the carpet. I'm just going to use that as an example. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Right? You go like, you've peed on the carpet. Yeah, that's not cool. You're just so in my space right now. I just feel like you're trying to control me. You're bringing a lot of dark energy to me. And then you say, no, you peed on the carpet. It's an inconvenience to the other people. And the esoteric person will come back at you as you're being negative. You have dark energy. Okay. But it might be just because you peed on the carpet and I'm pissed. Get it? Right. So maybe that's you peed on the carpet and I'm pissed. Right? Or an esoteric person will tell you you're not woke enough. Okay.
Yeah, you're not woke enough.
Right.
Oh, I'm woke enough to tell you you're not woke.
Yes. These are the kind of things that these are the kind of attacks that people who are into spirituality, well, they're not really genuinely, and they use it as a buffer to beat other people down. And it's infested the yoga community, which was very dear to me for many, many years. Okay. Because everybody thought yoga would save the world. Yoga spawned some of the worst narcissists in history. Okay. So for instance, we had, if you go into a yoga studio, there will be these people who are totally into themselves. You need to be concentrated for yoga practice, but you can tell that they're just into themselves. How do you think a relationship with these people will end for you? Let's see.
Well,
Okay.
It depends on perspective. From them, you've ruined them and brought all that dark energy, then it's all your fault. That's how it's going to end.
So I'm vegan. I've been vegan since I was 13. Okay. I wouldn't recommend anybody be vegan. I really wouldn't. All right. It's a hard life. Trust me, don't try it. Okay. So I know a few yoga people who believe in this vegetarianism things, and they assume the holier than thou attitude. So Andrew, should you pick up and eat that burger, right? They're going to look at you with judgment, and they don't understand that it is the same thing. Okay, they're the ones bringing the dark energy. They're the ones bringing the negativity into the space.
Mm-hmm. And many of them are social justice vegan warriors who, at that moment, as you're taking a bite, about to enjoy it, inserting their perspective in darkness.
I remember getting into an actual argument with a friend of mine in school. I had been practicing yoga for many, many years, but I love my Birkenstocks. I love them. I'm not going to give up Birkenstocks. Okay. Whatever animal was used to make my Birkenstocks was already dead when the Birkenstocks was made. So yeah, I'm going to wear Birkenstocks. And I'm going to be unrepentant, and I'm going to live my life uncompromisingly, not because it offends you, okay? But because it is who I am. And everyone in this audience, I want you to understand that when you meet people who, I don't care whether they're spiritual, whether they're political, whether they're religious, and all that sort of nonsense, they have their belief system, you have yours. Stand up for who you are. And whenever they get upset at who you are, assume the tree pose.
That's it. We're going to start flash mob tree poses on every political organization around the world.
Yep.
So, David, we had a cool question from a chat room from somebody titled Galaxy S8. They probably didn't put their name in. Could you share your insights with us about someone who's borderline personality disorder? I ask this because the shift between narcissists and codependent personality types.
Okay, now that's a difficult one. I don't know whether the caller was asking this in terms of a relationships scenario. Let me see if I can find this in the chat.
It says Galaxy S8. It's got to scroll up a little bit. There's a lot of chitty chatty
about someone with borderline personality disorder. I ask this because they shift between narcissist and codependent. That is correct. They do. But you don't always notice the I see it. My sister's borderline personality. Okay. Here is the thing. That is extremely difficult to diagnose and extremely difficult to treat. Okay. Codependency is a disease where you become, literally, the person becomes whatever you're codependent on, or whoever you're codependent on, becomes your drug. Okay.
Your addictive drug that you get dopamine releases from.
And usually borderline personality, people with borderline personality generally tend to fall into codependent situations. Okay. So to treat someone like that, you have to start the conversation from where are you and where do you want to be? Where are you and where do you want to be? You have to start the conversation like that. It's pretty much the same methodology as Alcoholics Anonymous, okay? But the borderline personality is going to get into the way because borderline personality also comes with large amounts of manipulation as well, okay? And I want to make a distinction here between someone who's manipulative and a narcissist. Narcissists are always manipulative, okay? They train themselves to be, they need you to be in a box, so they're going to be manipulative. Manipulative people aren't necessarily narcissists. Like your mom is not a narcissist, is she? Well, probably she is, I don't know, right? But if your mother we manipulate you using emotion, for instance, okay? So eat my chocolate cake or else you'll hurt my feelings. That's manipulation. Does not necessarily a narcissist make unless she's a chef or a baker or something. But anyway.
It's a narcissic cake.
Narcissic cake. It's funny. So he's like, so, you know, it is difficult with borderline personality disorder. Yes, they switch between narcissist and codependent because also when you're in a codependent relationship, I want you to understand that things are not equal. People switch roles as well, huh? People switch roles. So the narcissist may become the person who is being manipulated, and both people manipulate each other. I'll give you a running example because this is a little bit unclear. There is a man and there's a woman. I keep giving heterosexual examples specifically because it brings the point across clearly. Okay, so there's a man and there's a woman. The man might be a narcissist. He might tell the woman, go change your clothes. Men will look at you a certain way if you don't wear what I'm telling you to wear. The woman may change her clothes and do what the man says, not because she wants to please him as much as she wants him to stay with her. Do you understand that?
Yep.
She wants him to stay with her. So they're both manipulating each other because in some cases, the person who is the victim of a narcissist is aware that they are the victim of a narcissist, but because they want that person to stay with them, they will comply. In a borderline personality, you have both of these evils running, okay? You have both of these evils running. And then what happens is that you might find yourself in a literal blender, all right, between narcissism and codependency, where you can't escape, huh? You can't escape. There's no way you can escape that kind of thing. unless you distance yourself. There is only one cure for a narcissist, and that is to ghost them. If the person is narcissist and they're bordering on psychopathology, you need to ghost that person completely. And when I say ghost, I mean cut them out of your life completely. Okay? Because there's a lot of people who try to leave narcissists, but because of some ill-fated concept that says, I've known this person for a few years, so I could probably be their friend and remain in touch, the narcissist will draw you back in. It is the state of how they think, how they operate. They will let you go to reel you back in. You need to be very careful when you are dealing with a narcissist. You need to remove yourself from this person. There are other things that also play a part in this. For instance, narcissists will make you feel guilty because you're ghosting them. Okay?
Ghosting, let's define that, because that's like the best thing you can do to a narcissist is give them no input, zero, like a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Now, oftentimes that leads them into some very crazy mental instability points.
Mm-hmm.
And they devolve from a narcissist to a terrorist to get you back under their control. And when a person submits to the narcissist / terrorist, that is pure vampirism.
I'll give you a running example. I like to use illustrations. I did have in my office some years ago a woman who was married to a man for 14 years. The man was a complete narcissist, unashamedly so. Okay, he really believed that the world revolved around him, but then that's part of his culture. He was brought up in a culture where narcissism is actively encouraged because men are supposed to be the ones that earn the money and are the ones who should be looked up to. So he was using a lot of emotional and conversational terrorism on his wife. His wife decided to leave him because he was becoming abusive as well, verbally and partly physically. And he went to her parents and told her parents, look at what she's doing to me. She's not even returning my calls. Now, if you could understand where all of that is coming from, if this has ever happened to you, where somebody goes to a third party, be it your friends, your family, you will understand how annoying and just wrong that is. But that will happen. Okay? So a narcissist will try to reel you back in. And then you end up in a situation where the terrorism becomes a very real thing for you. They will call you, they will call you, they will go to your friends, they will surround your friends and family. So when you're talking about ghosting, you are talking about giving them zero input. You're talking about full-on tree pose from Hatha Yoga. Okay? You're talking about a permanent tree pose. Okay? And you need not to feed into that thing. But in the Galaxy estate, I believe it's your sister. And when it's a family member, then it's a little bit different. Because you can't get rid of them because you have to see them at family dinners. Well, I suggest you brush up on your tree pose mentally. Okay? You mentally assume the tree pose. You need to be civil, but do not engage. Don't engage. And if that person is vacillating between the two on you, then you need to create geographical space between you and that individual if it is possible.
Lubricate conversations by answering back. Okay? And I say lubricate because a narcissist needs your input to validate their narcissism. So they can twist what you're saying, what you're thinking, what you're doing to fit their perspective and point of view.
For those of you out of the audience, let me tell you how prolific this is, Andrew. Out of everybody who's listening to us right now, at least 55% of you would have encountered a narcissist. Okay? And about 45% are actively engaging with a narcissist at some point right now. Okay? You need to be able to spot what is going on. The moment that you feel threatened, or your sovereignty, your sovereignty as a conscious being with choice is being infringed upon, then you know that something is wrong. It just depends on whether or not you're willing to do something about it. That's what it depends on. It depends on, are you going to maintain sovereignty, or are you going to surrender it? And if you surrender it, then you are not a conscious being with choice. You are a conscious being with someone else's choice.
Pow! So important. And now, as Galaxy SA put another good question there. What if one, hypothetically, a self-aware narcissist, quote, is there a possibility to heal? I know it's really rare, next to impossible, but I ask because it seems like the easiest way to rid the world of narcissists is to rid them of it. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay, so narcissism is like that ingrown tooth that you have. Pulling it out from the root is like pulling it out without anesthetic. In order for a narcissist to heal, they have to want to heal in the first place. Here's the problem with narcissism. It's kind of like sociopathology. Okay, I'll explain. A sociopath, right and wrong is of no consequence. Okay?
Zero consequence. And for
Right.
us, that's hard to determine. They don't understand consequences. No, they have no value and variables to them.
Okay, narcissism is kind of like sociopathology, because they act like them. Right and wrong is of no consequence. You might try to explain to a narcissist, hi, I'm a conscious being with choice. The narcissists are like the Borg. Resistance is futile. We are the Borg. We will add your distinctiveness to our own. That's what the Borg says, right? Did I get that right?
Yep.
Right. So, right. Yeah, I totally am a Trekkie. I know. Right. The Borg rolls up to you and says, we are the Borg. We are here to assimilate you. We will add your distinctiveness to our own so that you will be a better person. That's narcissist talking.
So the Borg are narcissists?
They totally are. We are superior. We are here to make you better. That's Borg. That's Borg language. Narcissists are like that. They're there to make your life better. If you would just, they don't, it's like another, I'm going to use another movie reference. The 300, for those of you who watched it.
Yes.
So the Borg becomes your God, and they don't require you to stand for anything. They just require you to kneel. Okay? You don't have to stand. It's too much effort to stand. You just have to kneel, and everything will be okay. Okay. This is why you don't surrender to narcissists. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I'm going to deal with Galaxy Asset in a while. Yes, you can probably heal a narcissist, but it's going to require them to actually genuinely want to change. Because you can't heal them. I mean, you could theoretically attach a few electrodes, couple 1,000 volts, I guess. But no, you can't heal a narcissist that easily. Okay, and I'll tell you why that is. Because what happens in therapy is that a narcissist comes into my office and says, well, she's unhappy, I want to change, but he has a plan in his head. He just wants to demonstrate to the woman, I'm giving you a real life scenario, that I'm doing something to change so that she stays. And the longer she stays, the more her will becomes subservient to him. Right? He's just buying himself time to break the will. This is the kind of thing that happens in narcissistic interactions. So can a narcissist change? Theoretically, yes. Anyone can change. As long as you're alive, you can change. But I want you to understand that sociopathology and narcissism run a very thin line, because a narcissist will do whatever it takes to maintain control.
Does that include healing? Because how do you know if a narcissist is actually healed? Has crossed the healing line and not a narcissist anymore.
Well, we're given the narcissist test. Let me tell you a few things that narcissists can't do. Okay? A narcissist can't genuinely be subservient or can't genuinely follow orders or be subservient to someone for extended periods of time. Okay?
Okay.
So if it's in a relationship issue, he definitely is not going to do that. Or she's definitely not going to do that. They're going to want control. Their need for control is so intense that it literally bursts out of them. So if he plays possum and tries to be subservient and getting counseling and stuff like that, he or she can't do it for over an extended period of time. They can't. They will crack and they will break. Okay.
Into what? Into what?
Okay, so being a narcissist and trying to hold it back is like trying to hold back the ocean. You know, like Niagara. Imagine if these walls came down, what would happen? Okay, everything, and then it's a lot worse. It's 1,000 times worse. Okay, when you are a narcissist, as I believe Teresa in the chat room, you're correct. It's like a possession. It has to come out. It has to come out at some point. And the longer they hold it pent up, when it breaks, it really, really breaks. Okay, it comes out full force. So my suggestion to you, if you wanted to see whether a narcissist is true and doing, ask him to do something that you know that he may not like doing. See how long it lasts. See how long it lasts. Now, this is not a manipulation on your part. This is a test. Okay? A narcissist may not like to do something like be respectful to your parents, as an example. As an example, could you come and meet my parents and sit down and be respectful to them? Okay, that might work one weekend. It's definitely not going to work for the rest of the year. It's not going to work. It's going to crack and it's going to break. So that's basically how you
just put him next to your uncle Jeff, that's the pro-Trump guy, and see what happens.
Yes, well, that happens. That's not going to end well for anybody, actually. Actually, narcissists or not, but anyway, it depends on how. So I was asked a question there in the chat. How do you get a narcissist to go get help?
Bribe.
That's a hard thing. They don't want help. They think they're okay. Okay? I don't know if you've ever met a sociopath. I have met a couple of them. They think they're okay. They think there's something wrong with you. Let me tell you a discussion I had with a sociopath. The sociopath says to me, you know, the world is too overpopulated. We should kill a few people. Okay. I mean, it's a simple solution, right?
Yep.
We're overpopulated. Let's kill a few people. I mean, like, what's the problem? And I'm like, no, that's not a good solution because, yeah, you wouldn't like it done to you. Yes, but I would be the one with the gun. Answer. I would be the one with the gun. Yeah, but it's actually wrong to take lives. What's wrong with you? It's overpopulated. There's a problem. Solve it. That's how a sociopath thinks. Okay? A narcissist thinks in a similar way. I am here to make people better. I will do whatever it takes. I'm going to manipulate your friends, manipulate you. I'm going to make you feel guilty. I'm going to make you feel angry. Okay? I'm going to make your mother make you feel guilty. I'm going to make your father make you feel guilty. I'm going to put the entire society and your entire circle against you. I will lie. I will cheat. I will do whatever I need to do. I will go into your phone. I will send messages. I'll hack into your email. I will do whatever it takes to make sure that you obey me. That's how a narcissist thinks. So, ghost the narcissist is the moral of the story. How do you make them go get help? Write them a letter from Spain and send them a postcard. You need some help. Okay? Don't put a forwarding address. Don't put a forwarding address.
I have a few other funny concepts when dealing with narcissists. You said a letter from Spain. Well, you could always take one of their prized possessions and just send it around the world, like they did with the lawn gnomes. You'll never get it back. Because you're never really going to get through to a narcissist. Now, I saw some questions, some stuff earlier. Can narcissists really heal? Anyone can heal. Sociopath's a little different. They don't even know that anything's wrong. Now, what are some of the causes of narcissism? People don't start that way, do they? Or is it genetically inherited?
Narcissists learn how to become narcissists from their parents. A lot of them do, I'd say, but it's not something that's natural. I believe that there's a little bit of narcissism in all of us. But I believe that they learn. It's a learned behavior for the most part. How their mother and father interact is important. All right. And the worst thing that you could do if you're a parent is show your children this kind of manipulative behavior between yourself and your spouse or whatever else. That's the worst thing that you can do. Because what happens 9 times out of 10 is that they're learning, they're ingesting, and they practice it when they grow into, it starts from teenage years when they meet other kids and they start dating or interacting with the opposite sex. And somebody must be stronger and somebody must be weaker. Okay, that is the essence. The essence of narcissism is power. By the way, does everybody know where the word narcissism came from?
No, where did it come from?
It's actually a Greek story. So there was this guy. He was the fairest man that ever lived, right? He was handsome. No, he wasn't buff because we're talking about way back when. And Andrew, I'm sorry, this is Greek, by the way.
I actually know this. I actually know the story. I was just moving along the radio show.
Right, it's Greek. All right, so there was this nymph who really, really liked him. Guess what her name was?
Narcissus.
No, the nymph's name was Echo.
Echo. Okay.
Okay. And I'll tell you the story. Anyway, so she really liked him because she thought he was hot or whatever else and tried to speak to him. But this idiot, dissed the nymph. Like, who dissed the nymph? By the way, nymph is where we get the word nymphomaniac, so he really lost out on that one. But anyway, that's beside the point. He dissed this little nymph called Echo, and Echo disappeared. And pretty much she could only repeat the words coming back. Anyway, never mind. It's a long story. But let's deal with Narcissus. So he got punished by Hera, Juno. You want to know what they did to him? They made him walk past a stream. And in the stream, he saw his reflection. And he looked down in this reflection in the stream, right? And he's like seeing, who's this hot dude in the stream? Oh, shit. That's me. I can't stop looking at myself. I am so hot. Well, he kept looking at himself and he didn't eat and he died right there by the stream, which is like the perfect ending to this story. Okay. He died right there by the stream because he kept looking at himself in the water. Yeah, that's where we got the word narcissist from. And a lot of narcissists are exactly like that. All they can see is themselves. That's all they can see. Okay, and what is required for them to have the story end properly is that they need to look at themselves by themselves, alone by a stream. Okay? Because that's what Greek tragedy tells us is the ending for a narcissist. But the problem is that we have too many people walking around who are willing to entertain narcissists. Okay? Because they're not aware. They're not aware that the narcissist lives inside the individual that they're speaking to. So that is the story of narcissism. But in terms of our modern day variants of narcissism, we see narcissists on Facebook all the time. Facebook is the originator of a lot of narcissism, social narcissism. You see people posting stuff online and they're postulating their new religion, their own little private religion. So you have people who are eating ice cream 24 hours a day, postulating about nutrition. You have people whose lives are in shambles, posting about relationships. You have people who have broken marriages, probably been married 1,000 times, postulating about relationship advice. You think that they should know what the ethos is. But if you knew, then you would save the marriages that you have. So Facebook is the originator of a lot of narcissism. Instagram as well. This is one thing that I really absolutely despise getting into an elevator. Tell me if you've ever seen this, Andrew.
Yes. Or worse.
All right.
Yeah.
That is narcissism to the highest degree. You're in an elevator with people. You take out your phone and you're taking selfies of yourself and fixing your hair and stuff like that, while there are people around you. Narcissism is on the rise. It starts with that. When you close down your world to such a degree where all you can ever see is yourself, telling other people how they should live. Narcissist.
David, this is a great conversation. So Jen, let's go ahead and take our break right now. And when we come back, we're going to delve more into conversational terrorism, narcissism, and then take some callers. So Jen, I believe our break's going to be about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, everyone.
Hello, my name is Chris Ray Chappell, and I'm going to be teaching in Aniki, Barbados from the 11th of October for 3 days, an intensive on Hunyuan primordial Qigong. This is a classical energy work set, which is primarily meant to open up all of the energy pathways of the body and to actually get you into your essence. Now, the idea of this set is it's going to open every single joint, muscle, every bit of connective tissue, the sinews, the organs, the spine, access the blood flow to the brain, creating a homeostasis. Now, Qigongs classically are meant for either health, power development and strength, and often for meditation. So the application of this set is broad ranging. So I'd like to welcome you there. Hopefully you can make it for the 3 days. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to enjoy teaching it and sharing what I have and to see who turns up. So I'd like to see you there. Thanks very much. Bye.
Baby steps for adults, drug abuse. What is drug addiction? Am I an addict? Who does drug addiction really harm? They can hurt your sense of judgment, decision-making, memory, and ability to learn. They can hurt your loved ones and so many others around you. Drug addiction is a disease which can be cured. Our Baby Steps program can provide the information you and your family need to overcome this illness. Online access to professionals working in the field of addiction, webinars and group counseling for those battling this addiction, full instruction to help you first understand this disease and how to cope with it. Join us today. We're here to help. Baby steps for adults, codependency. I can't live with or without you. I just want to look good for you. I would do anything for you. All popular words to famous songs. But guess what? They all indicate someone in a codependent relationship. Codependency is an addiction to another human being. You will see a strong relationship between codependency and negative physical side effects, which can manifest in violence towards your spouse or partner. If you're in a codependent relationship, you may need help. Join us today and free yourself from this addiction. Baby steps for adults, sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is a real problem in our societies. Every year, thousands of children are abused. These children constitute the most vulnerable members of our society. However, sexual abuse is also a real problem among our adult population. It can be violent and unwanted within family groups, as well as extreme harassment at the workplace. We can help. With online access to trained professionals working with victims of abuse and sexual assault, webinars and group counseling for those suffering from the trauma and struggling to make sense of their lives, full instruction to help you overcome the trauma and how to detect and assist other victims. Protect yourself and your loved ones. Join us today. Baby steps for adults, communication. Hey there. Are you reading this? Do you understand me? Oh, great. Then we're communicating. So what is good communication? Expressing exactly how you feel. Being personal and one-on-one. A simple touch or gesture of love. And what is poor communication? Screaming and shouting. Belittling others. Violence or verbal abuse. Would you like to learn to be an effective communicator? Join us today. Oh, bye now.
Welcome back, everyone, to our continuing show. So, David, we have delved in deep into narcissism, conversational terrorism, and we're going to open up calls in just a second. Now, I'd like to talk about our Naniki facility and retreat that's coming October 11th to the 14th. Now, that's a little bit more than 12 or 15 days away. And we want to tell people you do have final opportunities to come and sign up. You can go to info at Unified Health Systems to get more information on all the little individual pieces that you'll be getting out it with Chris Chappelle, working with our healing system in Barbados, as well as being able to get other forms of certification. David, you and I have talked about this for quite some time, that the continuing education that we offer is the most important thing that we got going. So let's talk about this retreat and all the education they're going to get.
Well, we're bringing down Chris Chappelle, who's a Qigong master, and we're going to be running you through classes. On hand will be yoga teachers, massage therapists, and so on. I know a lot of people in the US require continuing education credits. We offer continuing education credits. I'm actually a continuing education provider for the Yoga Alliance in the US. So we'll be going through yoga philosophy at an Naniki retreat. We'll be also offering classes and everything from Reiki to dance, okay? And actually, that retreat is actually going to be quite exciting because we're having a huge party at the end of it, sort of a holistic party, so to speak. At the end of it, and everybody's really quite pumped to be there, right? So we're getting a lot of good feedback, and it promises to be something quite useful and educational for everyone.
So some of the technologies they'll get exposed to is using the hyperbaric chamber, the flotation tank, pulse electromagnetic therapy, all the while you're still able to do the Qigong master stuff, combining and hybriding these things like never before.
Yes, because we have realized that it doesn't depend on the systems. You do this system, that system, it's outdated, right? It's the combinations and where things intersect that works. Okay, so we have technological implements. We have a chi machine, we have a hyperbaric chamber, we have pulse electromagnetic masks, we have an infrared sauna here in Barbados. Okay, that's a technology aspect, but we also have a lot of the system stuff. Well, it doesn't matter what form of yoga you do, it doesn't matter what holistic practice you do, you will find something to add to your practice here. Okay, we even have somebody who's working within crystals and the healing modalities using crystals and magnets and so on. So these are the kinds of things that we want to integrate. And when I say integrate, everybody says that word. It's like a catchphrase now. It's kind of like what holistic therapy is. It's a catchphrase, but we really mean it. So we're integrating technology, traditional approaches. We have a general practitioner who's going to come and talk to us, but obviously she's quite receptive to other means of healing because she's seen what the invasive techniques have done to a lot of people. We have a general practitioner, like a general practitioner, a traditional doctor. We're going to have traditional people. We're going to have non-traditional people. We're going to make them talk and interact and so on. I will be giving the Yoga Alliance continuing education credits for the people who need to maintain the yoga certification. But I will also be giving a talk on nutrition because a lot of people think they have an idea of how nutrition works from the internet, and the internet is positively the worst place you can go for nutrition advice. It is the worst place you can go, okay? And as I keep telling people, I mean, this is part of our lecture, so I don't want to give it away. If you're on a diet right now and the diet has a name, get off that diet.
Very good. If it has a name, get off of it.
Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, we are actually gearing up to have quite a good time in Barbados. This is not going to be like some sort of stiff retreat. I don't do stiff type of retreats where everybody's like in their little section. No, we're going to integrate. Barbados doesn't lend itself to this kind of stiff interaction. So if you've been to those retreats where everybody has their belief system on this side and this belief system on that side, no. We are actually going to be integrating and speaking and mixing with people. We're going to pretty much have quite a lot of fun down here. So we encourage you guys to come.
Yeah. And if people wanted to stay on extra longer than the retreat and do some immersive healing, our Wisteria Court facility is open now to take people on an appointment-based basis. It's been open now since the 1st of October.
Mm-hmm.
So it is open. It's not just the retreat. We are hybriding the retreat right now with the Wisteria Court system so that you guys get to come and experience it at a very unique price point. Normally, a 3-day retreat like this would be well over $5,000, and we're bringing it to you for $2,000. And if you want to continue your healing and do some really deep immersion therapy, you'll be able to continue your therapy at $800 a day at the Wisteria Court facility, which again is normally $2,000 to $3,000 a day anywhere else in the world that you go to get this level of immersive therapy. We're following a medical tourism model. We've dropped the prices to this to make it affordable to everyone. Now, the island of Barbados, is it central to everyone? Technically, in one way it is. Whether you're in England, United States, Brazil, Africa, India, y'all can make it there. Tickets are not that expensive. Do some research. Contact David at info@Unified Health Systems. You can also contact our Galactic Historian PA, Michael, at mpa@galactichistorian.com. And if you're having trouble, give us a call. Maybe you just need to have a better understanding, and we can set up a call to finalize it with you. Now, over the next couple weeks, the Wisteria Court facility is going to start to get packed up. And we are offering the ECG, EEG machine special that we've offered before. That means every time one of the machines, you get the data of what the machine is actually doing to you.
Actually, you know what? We actually are hoping not only to create data and write a couple of white papers on it, but everyone who comes to the clinic for this particular event will get pretty much a workup. We're doing oxygen saturation as well, which we've added to our portfolio of treatment options. One way or another, we have created a system that actually makes a difference. The reason why we're adding the EEG and the ECG to it is because we want to monitor vital statistics to show that there's a marked improvement in health. It's not enough to just feel that way. We want to actually document it, right? And that's why we're going about it that way.
David, I think we have got everyone set up here. So Jen, let's tell everyone who wants to, if you want to be a caller, you have to raise your hand. So everyone that's in the chat room, if you want to be chose, you must go to the little 3 dots button, the 3 dots under participants, and click raise your hand. So Jen, let's spin the wheel of callers and see who the first caller is.
Okay, Michael, you are unmuted.
Michael, are you there?
I am here.
Great. Where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from St. Louis.
St. Louis. Welcome to the show. What did you have to talk about today?
I have a 10-year-old son just turning 10 next week. Had a stroke from a car accident at 5 months. And at 5 years old, he could read. He could formulate words, no problem in the reading process. But as he's in his 4th grade now, he just does not care about traditional mathematics training in school. Is there anything I can do to motivate him? Right now, of course, he sees other dimensions. He's seen things come and go his whole life. But I still need to get him motivated to some traditional learning so he can have a job someday.
You said he had a stroke at 5 years old?
At 5 months old, still in the womb from a seatbelt on his mother.
Ooh.
So he has about a 1-inch hole on his left motor control and receiver, which affects the right arm, right leg, but he can walk fine. He can use his arm for a lot of things, but it still has affected his, he's rewired differently in his brain. He can read fine.
Does he have any hand-eye or hand-feet coordination issues?
He has a little bit, but he can walk fine. His hand, he doesn't use his right arm fully because of the motor control and motor receptors where there's a big hole. So his brain had to be retrained, rewired since the day he was born.
And you said he's how old now?
He's turning 10 next month, Sandro.
Ooh. So has puberty started really?
No.
Go ahead, David.
What are the therapies that you pursued in his case?
He couldn't walk till he was about 18 months old with confidence because of his right side was weak. He has some special course in one-on-one training through school since he was in preschool. So he's had a lot of that. But I'm looking to get him interested more into the traditional learning. He doesn't care about kids his own age. He's just in his own thought world. He's not autistic or anything like that, but he just has a differently wired brain.
Give me an idea of speaking to him. What happens when you speak to him?
He doesn't talk as much as he should, but if you ask him a question, he'll answer. His conversations is pretty much normal. But when he was in first grade, they labeled him autistic because he'd look at somebody like, what do you want? And I believe a lot of that was because he could hear you in his mind. He could read your mind and he could read other people's. And he's like, well, why can't they read my mind if I can read theirs? And he grew up like that for a few years. So he's had to learn to go outward now and communicate more. And he can do basic math. He can read books at 3-4 year level. But he's still missing a lot of the interaction in school that's going to bring him along like he should be.
Now you're talking about social interaction, am I correct?
I'm not worried about that so much. I don't think he has time for kids his own age. He likes adults. He follows YouTube quite a bit on certain things that he likes. He watches a lot of movies, so on.
So what you're just concerned about is the math?
No, I'm concerned about just everything in general. Reading comprehension. You know, they rate him as a first grader in reading. He can read it. He can pronounce every word fine. But they're saying, well, what about this and that? Tell us who the main characters are and what their motivation is. And he really doesn't communicate or understand that to them.
Can he summarize?
Well, communications, when they ask him, tell us about the main characters in a story that you just read. He read through the whole story, pronounced every word fine, but he really hasn't got maybe the knowledge or the thought process to go through and analyze that and produce it in his own mind and formulate a summary.
Understood. So basically, he's less concerned about the content.
Yes. However, he can repeat a lot of movies word for word. He can repeat YouTube things and a lot of things word for word. His memory is incredible, but he just doesn't have that motivation for traditional school.
Probably it's not so much of a problem. Now, I think different people learn different, and I have some experience with stuff like this, so I can pretty much tell you. You're familiar with a disorder called ADD and ADHD, right?
Yes.
It required a different kind of learning. Okay? So my suggestion would be, instead of concentrating on the problem itself, the end problem, my suggestion would be to understand how he learns, and it's going to be different from yours. That is the hardest thing in the world to do. Okay, so there are some occupational therapists who are very skilled in with regard to this. His learning methodology, because his brain was rewired different, it would be different from yours. You're speaking to me and you're understanding what I'm saying because we're theoretically learning on the same wavelength. All right, I need to probably get personal here. When I was younger, I used to see words reversed myself. Okay, I did. Okay, but it took someone to actually understand how I learn to get in there to see it. So the reason why I'm asking you so many questions is because I want to get an idea of how he learns. What is going to be required by the therapist or yourself, I would suggest it be yourself, is that you look at him, see what he likes, how he learns it, because there are things that he's going to like and learn really well and ingest. Remember that not everybody processes the same way you will process. Someone who's autistic will see 1,000 times the detail that you see, especially if they're high functioning. Okay? They will see 1,000 times the detail that you see. But what comes out of them when you speak about the object that is being perceived is not going to seem meaningful to you. Okay? But I will give you some success that I've had with children that I've had to deal with who have learning disabilities of certain kinds. I find the things that they like to learn, I observe how they learn them. So let me give you a little bit of a heads up here. Children are visual, kinesthetic, auditory, okay, or digital. I'll explain. Or probably your son is in that. So look at how he learns. I'll explain it in an illustration, for instance. Okay, if you've ever taught a yoga class, for instance, there are going to be people you could describe what is going on to them, and they will get the posture done. There are other people that you have to show them the posture, and then they can copy it and understand it. There's certain people that you have to explain what the posture does and why you have to be at a certain angle, at a certain distance from them. That's the digital types, and they will understand it. And there were some people that you actually have to physically put them in the posture and touch them for them to understand it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Different learning types.
Yes.
You need to isolate what sinks in, because if he's gotten to 10 years old, irregardless of the injury or the stroke or whatever else, he would have rewired himself differently. And you need to track how it is that his rewiring has worked. And you need to mimic that if you want him to learn stuff. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? Have I lost you, Michael?
Yes. Yes.
Okay? You have to understand what he did to rewire, and that is going to require you to extend your mind to leave back what you know and relearn things inside his head. And the reason why I said it's better that you do it is because a professional is not going to invest that time unless they really, really care about the kids that they're dealing with. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, that is going to require you to actually put down the way you learn and process and get into his field. Okay, because I've had to deal with autistic children. An autistic child was brought to my yoga class, and she was drawing because she's extremely talented. That was a few years ago. Extremely talented. Her mother brought her to the class. She was just waiting for the mother to finish the class. But I saw her in her world, in her own world. And what I did was I sat down next to her quietly, and she was drawing a chimera. Okay, it's a mythical beast. She doesn't know what it is, but something in her mind told her what to draw this thing. Okay, and I picked up a pad and I drew with her. And this is how we started the dialogue between each other. You need to start a dialogue inside his space, is what I'm saying to you. It doesn't matter what the space is. The trauma, the accident is over, the stroke is over, the rewiring is set. But you can't make him become wired like you. Do you understand, Michael?
Yes, I do. And he has put down the iPad recently that he's played with for the last 8 years and started drawing quite a bit lately.
Okay. You need to get within his frame, and you need to get within that dialogue. The way you reach children that are locked inside their minds or rewired differently is to get within the zone that they're getting in, that they're operating in. You can't make them come out into your zone and play with you. You need to go inside and play with them. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Okay. I could tell you that I suffered from dyslexia when I was younger. I turned it into a strength. I didn't make it a weakness. It's not a weakness. I was also on the spectrum as well. I turned it into a strength. And even though I still operate a lot inside my mind, right? It took somebody, a yoga teacher actually, to understand me and draw me into and come inside the world where I was at. So I'm not just saying this because what you said actually touched me quite a bit. I'm not just saying this because I'm a therapist. I'm saying this because I've understood it on my own skin, and I've actually had to help a young lady who was wholly and truly locked inside her own world. I had to get inside the world because I understood what is going on. You need to establish a dialogue. And Michael, I'm sorry, I'm asking you to be a super therapist here. You need to observe. You need to micro observe. You need to put away what your learning process is, put away all of these things and get inside. If you want that person to come into and come outside and play with you, you need to go inside and play with them. Are you? And I say that person, and I'm making your son an object specifically because I need you to remove the Michael W. Bauman part of yourself and become the child that actually sees the child. I really hope I'm not losing you here, because I what I'm trying to do is get you to understand that he's not going to come out and play unless you go in and play. Does that make sense to you now?
Yes, it does.
So you want to teach him math in a diagrammatic way. Okay? If he likes to draw, you need to draw that math out. You're not going to write 1 + 1 is equal to 2 and get him to understand it. Okay? The young lady who was drawing the chimera never saw a chimera. She was just drawing different animal parts and sticking them to each other. That's all she was doing. Right? But she was receiving that, for want of a better word, I hate using this word. Oh my God, I'm going to use it. She was receiving that download from wherever, and I understood that she is in her own world and she's speaking to herself, so to speak, or parts of herself. Okay? And once you understand that and you get within the framework that she's working within, you could teach that child anything. And let me tell you where that child is now. She's now a graphic designer for a very big company. Okay? Mm-hmm. So she learned because somebody took the time to stop treating her like a patient and just get into the vibration that she was operating in. I know that I'm asking a lot out of you, but I suggest that this is the best way to go about it. It really is. Okay.
So I have something to add here. I'm also dyslexic, and when I first started writing in kindergarten and first grade, I wrote in circles, like a spiral. I couldn't write straight, and I could write in reverse. And I still to this day misplaced numbers, and I had to learn to overcome it through forcing myself to read and reread, read and reread. Now, Michael, I got a question for you. Is your child have any phobias like water?
No, he has no phobias of water or anything like that. He likes knowing what the schedule is going to be. No, I can't say that he has any water phobias at all.
Are there any unusual fears that just come up? All 10-year-olds have those. Are any unusual fears come up?
Well, he's had a fear of loud noises, and I've been told it's because he was locked away in a past life in like a French Bastille.
You got to put all that stuff aside. Whatever somebody's telling you psychic about your child, you got to put that all as a grain of salt.
Loud noises, even to this day at 10 years old, affect him until he knows what it is and gets accustomed to it.
Just make a mental note or a list of evolving phobias. And I'll tell you, one second, Steve. This cold that I have is just not going away. The reason why is before you were talking about him reading minds. If he was really reading minds, he would be full of junk and garbage, like phobias, like fears. And I know you want your child to be super psychic, but don't force it on him by making conclusions. All children are psychic in their own way. Don't force him saying you think he reads minds, because unfortunately the kid psychically sponges that stuff, and you don't want a kid in other people's mind. That's the worst thing for a kid. The worst.
I concur with that assumption because a lot of children, and I want to say something here. I just want to cut across you there, Andrew. I concur with that assumption. I learned to meditate at 13 years old myself. Okay? That was the worst thing that has ever happened to me. I think there should be a disclaimer that you meditate when you're 16 or 18, at the age of consent. The younger you teach a child to meditate, the more open that child becomes and more sensitive. It is a horrible world you live in when you could see what adults are like.
Exactly.
Okay? It is a horrible world that you live in. And I want you guys listening to this to understand that. When you're dealing with children, if the children are gifted, they need a certain amount of protection. Mm-hmm. Do not send your children to meditation class at 10, 13 years old. Don't do it. Don't do it. Let them grow up, because what meditation does, it amplifies whatever you have. A lot of people don't understand that. All these spiritual practices, and I know there are a lot of people out here who are spiritual and they would like their children to start being spiritual from very young. I just want to make a disclaimer here. It can seriously work against that child's state of mind to make that child aware at an early age. Children are psychic. Yes, they are. Okay, they learn by the sensing. Okay, if you amplify that sensing, they're going to see through you, which you may not want.
How are you ever going to discipline them?
Mm-hmm.
So for you, just like David said, I'm saying is you really got to tone down your own conversational pieces about being psychic. All kids are psychic.
And understand, I've never had that conversation. It's only been observing.
Yeah, but it's still built into you. You felt that you had to say that he reads minds as part of the definition of who the kid is. Therefore, it's ingrained in you.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is tone that down. Now, alternatively, there are some things that can, let's just say, help him think differently. So there are magnetic toys out there. Have you ever seen these games that, these little magnets that go together and you make a structure out of them?
Mm-hmm.
Magnets are very, very powerful for autistic children because there's a bioelectrical frequency around it. Now, Legos are made out of plastic, and after a while, your own bioelectrical frequency gets in there. You can go and explore with some of those other geometrical concepts that use bioelectrical frequencies that are toys. You can go on Amazon and type in magnetic puzzles, and there's all sorts of kid stuff that's built into that for him. Now, one more thing is he beginning to learn any other languages?
Not that I know of. His mother speaks Spanish, but I think he just picks up the minimal when she's telling him to do something. He doesn't really know the language.
How much time does the mother spend with him, Michael?
I'm sorry?
How much time does his mother spend with him, Michael?
She does not live with him, so maybe a day a week at the most.
Okay, that might be, okay, you're going to have to double up and really get into his groove, so to speak. You're going to have to do that and leave your groove aside. And this would be my best suggestion to you. And the suggestion that Andrew just made is actually a very good suggestion. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because the creative aspect seems to be coming out. And you want him to develop, but you also need to be interested in his world. You do.
Yes. Need to be interested in his world. And do you ever go to like the toy stores with him, like the Toys R Us? Does he like specific things that he likes?
He did like cars and Toy Story, but after the last year or two, he's just kind of lost interest in that.
So I'm actually saying toy stores, not Toy Story. Like Toys R Us toy store.
Going through toy stores, there's not much that he's interested in anymore.
So there's a store out there called Brainy Games for Kids, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody is saying Toys R Us went bankrupt. I think they did actually, but I think there's still a few stores out there. So there are some special toys for very smart kids. And these are, again, geometric shapes, problem solving toys. And those are some of the things that they're specific for age groups. And I believe that your child could have a burst of inspiration and trying to solve some of these harder problems. And there is where your input into his world can be very beneficial. Very beneficial. Not just plain puzzles. These are toy puzzles that have been designed by geniuses for genius kids.
Understand.
Yeah. Thank you for calling in. You have been a really special caller.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Andrew.
All right, man. You have a good day. All right, Jen, let's spin the wheel of callers and see who we've got next. Jenny.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. We will have Strawberry. Okay, Strawberry, you are now unmuted.
Strawberry, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, where are you calling from today? Denver?
Hey, I'm calling from Denver, Colorado. You remember me? Yeah. So I'll let you go
you're
first.
In Denver.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm going to be in Denver at the end of this month.
Oh, awesome. We're having really nice, cold, chilly weather right now. It's amazing. But I love chilly weather. Some people don't like that.
All right. So what did you want to talk about today?
So my question touches on the narcissism we were talking about before the break.
Sure.
So my mother has Munchausen's by proxy. So she triggers health conditions or... Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
No, go ahead.
I was literally just telling myself, it's probably not going to be me. It's okay. Don't worry. And then I got picked. So she triggers health reactions within me, or with knowledge of whatever health conditions I have. She uses that as a way to control and get love back from me. Or like whenever something happens, like she accidentally sets something on fire in the house, and then that triggers any sort of breathing issues or any abdominal pain that I get from that because of my conditions. Then she gets to act like the doting mother, and then she gets self-love in that sort of way. So I was wondering if you had any...
So why don't you give David a quick background on some of the other sicknesses you have that gives you a super environmental sensitivity?
Sure. So I'm being treated for 2 blood disorders. One has to do with not enough glutathione enzyme within my red blood cells. And the other one is called acute porphyria. So my liver can't keep up with metabolizing toxins, drugs, that sort of thing, while also creating enough heme and hemoglobin and blood for me. So, and then beyond that, it's just severe allergic reactions and that sort of stuff. My immune system is kind of like on hyper mode.
So it pretty much is triggered by anything.
Yeah. So many things.
Okay. And you live with a mother who inadvertently triggers things so that she can be all over you. Okay?
Yes.
Strawberry, do you want... That's a really nice name. I have to say that again. Strawberry, do you want...
and it's only the last 2 years. Before that, it was several years on my own, independent. And I went into remission, actually. And then I got into a relationship with someone who smoked a lot of cigarettes, smoked a lot of weed. Just my one spiritual friend described him as a literal spiritual trash can. So like he just had a lot of poor guy. So he just had a lot of not great stuff around him. And then because I wanted to be nice, I was like, oh, it's okay if you smoke cigarettes around me, even though I have health conditions that used to be really, I would get really sick by them. So with all those exposures over time, I ended up relapsing again. And then a doctor 2 years ago was like, hey, so it's not safe for you to live independently anymore. You need to live with family. Because that's when the epilepsy started becoming active again, even though it's hardly been active throughout my life. So for the past 2 years, I've been living with her, and it's only gotten worse.
Okay. So my first question, are you on any medication right now?
I just got off of blood thinners for 2 years, so I'm really happy about that. I got sepsis from a bad IV prick, and they found like severe infectious pneumonia and a bunch of blood clots in my lungs, that sort of stuff. I was like a month in the hospital on IVs 24/7. And then after that, they had me on blood thinners just until recently. And then beyond that, it's all PRN. It's as needed medication like Valium for whenever I get like strobed online, whenever I'm watching Netflix and the strobing affects my epilepsy. And then pretty strong pain medication. If I ever am in so much pain that I'm not able to move, then I take that. Just things like that.
Okay, when did this start?
Oh, and IVs. Sorry, I'm on several different IVs for hydration. When did which start?
All of this.
I think 11 is when I really started to get sick. And hormones are a big trigger for acute porphyria too.
Mm-hmm. At 11.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically at the age of puberty.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, and you've been like this ever since?
It's gotten worse to the point because I was in and out of like working a job at a farmer's market, I think from when I turned 13 to 14, the legal working age, up until 18, when I was admitted, or right before 18, I was 17, I was admitted to Miami Children's Hospital because I was just like, something's wrong. We need to figure it out. And I would just like, my skin would break out and just start bleeding randomly whenever too much like cologne or alcohol was like sprayed in the air near me, or like Lysol, any sort of like really harsh chemical, my skin would just break out and start bleeding, and I would feel like passing out or pass out, and I would just get incredible pain. So I convinced my mother to admit me to the hospital so they could do some testing at least to figure out what was going on. And they were like, yeah, we don't really think much is going on, but we're going to put you on 90 milligrams of prednisone and send you home. So they put me on that much prednisone, and then I was like in a vegetative state on the couch. I was not there, and I hardly remember getting up to pee, and my mom would have to like give me water and food to eat like once a day whenever she paid attention. And then I finally died, and I remember like clipping, that's a video game term, I don't know if anyone will get that, but clipping from my body on Earth up into a feeling of like a vacuum. Mm-hmm. And I have so much going on. I feel I'm just like talking so much, sorry. And I was surrounded by these just amazing beings. And they were like, okay, so would you like to continue leaving and go back to the drawing board? There was like a feeling of like a school kind of with like a lot of like a library. And they were saying I could leave this body in this life and I could go to that school and try to do it better, like create a better life plan or something. Or I could go back into my body. They could give me a little bit of a gift or a clarification and I can still try in this body. And I was like, oh, for sure. Let me go back. I'm going to try. And they're like, okay, what can we help you with? And I just said, I'd like to see everything or something like that. I said, I'd like to see everything or maybe be more aware of everything, something like that. And they were like, okay. And then they gave it to me and I shot back in my body. I woke up, sprung out of bed, and I took the pills that were next to me and I just threw them across the house. And I was like, this is not happening. I'm moving to Colorado. I told my mom I was moving to Colorado. I turned 18 within like a few days or something. And I was just like, I'm going to Colorado. Something good is there. I'm going. And then within a year of moving to Colorado, I got diagnosed and I got IV therapy, all that sort of stuff. And that saved me from dying again, but it only was a Band-Aid to a certain point. And then now I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry.
So that's fine. That's a lot to unpack. So I'm just going to summarize the key points here.
Mm-hmm.
Your mother is utilizing your weaknesses to draw energy from you, theoretically.
Absolutely.
That's number one. But you have a bunch of weaknesses which were triggered by environmental factors, as well as just general allergies. And as a result of this, it's making your life less than ideal. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where a bunch of my IRL friends, my friends in the vicinity of Denver, they moved away, and, a few got married, and it's dangerous for me to go out to like meetups or groups or anything like that, because if someone is wearing too much cologne or too much perfume, it can send me to the ER for an IV drip and causes severe abdominal pain. Sometimes my urine will change colors. So.
Okay, so let me ask you a few questions. When it relapsed, what were the conditions that caused it to relapse?
It was before I was diagnosed. So I went into remission before I was diagnosed with the blood disorder. And something happened. I think I was at a concert and a bunch of people were like smoking, and it just like around me, and I just got too much. So I ended up having to go to the ER. Then the ER referred me to an oncology hematology person. And as she was walking out the door from our follow-up appointment, she was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. So she was walking out the door, and I was like, oh, sometimes my urine will change color to purple, but it's not happening right now, so it's fine. And then she came back in and she was like, okay, have you ever heard of acute porphyria? And so she treated me for the wrong type of the disease. And in order to treat me, she said she had to trigger me. So she gave me a phlebotomy and like removed like 2 pints of blood, I think, or like an incredible amount of blood. And I immediately had an episode in her office, and she just had to like security escort me out because it was just like, she didn't want to deal with it. But since she gave me the name, then I looked on Facebook for like a support group. And then finally I have my doctor now. So it was basically that doctor saying, the only reason I can give you any medicine, or the only way I can give you any medicine, is if I trigger you really badly and then I get it on test results. And then I said, yeah. So that triggered the relapse.
Okay. So you were in remission until then?
Yeah. Like about a year or so.
What were you doing when you were on remission that had you on remission? What did you do?
It was this program called, like, I think it's called the Ellen Cutler method. She uses like a machine that uses biofeedback and like this brass copper plate thing that you hold, and it desensitizes you to certain frequencies that your nervous system is like, hey, this is a threat. And then it communicates to your nervous system, hey, this isn't a threat. And it desensitizes that allergic reaction.
Oh, cool. Can I ask you a question, Strawberry? Did you try to learn that yourself?
I am looking at the machine right now, and I just had my like 2 out of 6 hour course the other day. So I'm learning it. Yeah.
Are you learning it fully? Because what it is doing is actually a good thing. Because what I'm hearing with all these reactions that you're going through is that your fundamental cellular structure is out of tune with everything around it.
Yeah, and
that's what it is. That's what it is. And if that is your problem, then you only have one problem.
Putting it back into tune?
That would be correct, yes.
Yeah.
You only have one problem. You don't have multiple problems. You have one.
With multiple symptoms. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah, you only have one problem. And if you solve that one problem, then you don't have multiple symptoms or problems, do you? But let's talk about your mother. Yeah, now that I know that you're now that I know that you're actually doing something, that is, yeah, because don't rely on medical professionals to help you, please.
It's just, if you're dying, then they can help. But for this sort of like being able to live healthfully every day, he's like, go for a walk, drink water. And I'm like, okay.
If for the people in the audience, if you're relying on medical professionals to maintain your health and wellness, you would be doing the wrong thing. Take control of your own health like Strawberry Hair is doing. So you're looking at the machine right now?
It's literally right next to you where my TV is.
Is it cool?
amazing. So I signed an NDA in order to be like trained and certified. So I can't say much more than I already have. But it's amazing. It's life-changing. And
Hey, Strawberry, I'm familiar with the machine that you're looking at right now.
Are you serious? Really? Sorry. I'm cool.
I'm looking at a version of it right now. Andrew will tell you.
Yes.
I'm looking at a version
Literally,
of it
it's right
now.
on the other side of the office.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right, so I'm familiar with the machine that you're looking at right now. We have one in our offices in Barbados, but anyway, and we also have one in the US as well. But in any case, the machine that you're looking at has lots of wonderful effects, and it just got FDA approved, if I'm not mistaken.
The Avatar? I think it's called.
Didn't you just sign an NDA? Did you just say that out loud? Really strong.
Wait, is saying the machine?
Okay, so you just signed an NDA, didn't you? So you can't say more than you know. Anyway, the fact of the matter is we have a version of that machine here. I can tell you that the effects are really, really, they're really, really outstanding effects. So my suggestion to you, now that you've learned how to use that thing, right, is that you use it. Why are we talking? Why are you not on that thing? Anyway, let us move on with your mother. Okay.
I'm allergic to metal, so I have to wait a few days after I use it.
The one we have has no metal except inside, isn't right, Andrew?
It's completely sealed, zero metal. All the coils are surrounded in their own resin plastic, which is then inside a mat.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe I can message Michael.
Leather mat too.
So you, what you can do is email us, and we'll send you a link for this machine that we have here. That way you won't have to wait in between days.
That would be great. Yeah, thank you.
So that is the first thing. Let's talk about your mom. Yeah, I'm going to have to say something very harsh to you. Your mom is an energy vampire. You know this, right? Except you're the one that she's draining energy from.
Yeah, ever since I was little.
Okay, so what are you going to do?
I'm working on getting out of the living environment with her.
Aren't you glad you didn't go into that little tiny house?
Yes. Yeah, because she was going to use her money to buy that tiny house for me, even though she's saying we don't have enough money to replace the clothes that she ruins of mine. I don't know. But then she would technically own the tiny house.
And you would be in her 10 by 10 prison.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or 30 by 10, whatever it was.
That would not be good for you. So there are some people who are unwitting energy vampires. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you walking here? Let me trip you up. Oh, I'm so sorry. Now I will have to nurse you back to health. That reminds me of that film, Misery. Did anybody see Misery to Stephen King?
Yes. Great movie.
Right. So you don't want to end up in that paradigm, and I think you already have. Okay.
Yeah.
So with regard to your allergies, you can work them out. Okay. Like you are super positive. I could hear that in your voice. You after the litany of things you have just described, right? You're still chipper and optimistic. And Strawberry, I have to say that name again, Strawberry. Oh my God. So, right, Strawberry. That is a wonderful thing. And once you have that attitude, you're already halfway there.
That's right.
That's very true. Yeah.
You're already halfway there. Just get on that machine. We can send you information, and we can certainly give you advice. But get on that machine. Do what it is that you need to. Speaking of which, what are you eating?
What am I eating? It's very limited, but like gluten-free. Most of the time, dairy-free. It just depends. If like sometimes I'm like, all right, I want milk chocolate. I just eat milk chocolate for a week, and then I don't feel too great, and then I avoid dairy. But I react to a lot of vegetables. So right now I'm not reacting to parsley. So I made like a cashew lemon cream sauce with like 3 cups of raw curly parsley in it. So your eyes widened. But I eat whatever I can and whatever my body is okay with. And then if I want to eat like bell peppers are going to be like the next thing that I want to add to my diet. I don't know why. I just got it in me that I want bell peppers in my diet. I'm going to clear bell peppers and, you know.
Well, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to eat naturally as possible. And when I say naturally, I don't mean just natural eating as in like raw food or anything like that. I mean, eat based on what your body, listen to your body and take in what it's asking you to take in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right now it's parsley and lemons, so I'm doing it.
Okay, cool. So the other issue is you might need to get your mother out of your geographical environment. I know this is a hard thing to have to say, but you're going to have to do that.
Yeah, and I have to do it carefully because I can't just say I'm living on my own now because you're purposefully making me sick. Because as soon as I put that out, then she knows that I know, and she's going to decline paying for hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy that's been helping me. She'll use her, higher paying job as a way to fund the therapies that are going to help me get better, as a way to, manipulate or that sort of thing.
Okay. So my suggestion would be that you do that as carefully as you possibly can, because she will trigger you as much as possible. Okay. Yes. And remember, you don't have a whole bunch of problems. You only have 2 now.
Yeah, desensitizing, just being super sensitive, and what was the other one?
Well, the 2 problems that you have is getting your system back to line with the environment that it is actually existing in, right? And I'm talking about earth frequencies. I'm talking about the frequencies of the environment, the air. I suspect even the air is going to be affecting you.
Yeah, I have like 6 air filters in this house, always running.
So you need to get back in because you're out of phase. You're out of sync.
Yeah.
Get back into sync, which means like having cool conversations like this.
Very right. Okay.
Go ahead.
Is there any other way that I could do that? That I could, I feel.
Isolated is the word you were about to say?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. You feel isolated. You don't have to feel isolated because there are other people like you who are also isolated. I see people in the group starting a group. Am I invited to the group by any chance? Because I see people in the chat trying to start a group with Nina and so on. So
that'll give me a reason to reactivate Facebook.
Yeah. So maybe you should probably, starting a group is actually a good idea so that our callers can interact and so on. What say you, Andrew?
I say we've had some powerful callers and powerful teachers. And Strawberry, you're not alone and you're not isolated. We talked a few weeks ago and we've been stayed in touch. And I'm so glad you called in today and had a chance to talk to David and myself and share your story. Okay? Now, I know you do a little bit of video game streaming and you have some sensitivity to the photosensitivity to some of the games, but you still have an out. It's not like you're completely locked away.
Yeah.
Show, Don't see yourself as locked away, even though you may have this feeling. There's a gigantic world out there just waiting to open up via perspective.
Very true.
Via perspective. And you helped a lot of people today just by having the courage to call in. Excuse me. I hope I don't get you sick across the internet. You've had the courage to call in, and the other callers that are called in too. Thank you so much for calling in, everyone. We got to end our show, but we are going to be back on tomorrow with our special webcast in which we are going to have special topics that will be announced just before the show. For all of you that are our regular listeners, we will be here tomorrow for our every other Friday webcast. Thank you for everyone in the chat. Thank you for Jen, who took over for Robert today. You did an amazing job. Thank you, David, and thank you, everyone. And we'll catch you tomorrow for our special webcast.
Okay. Bye, everyone.